Hello everybody, welcome to another Versus Video Deck Tech. CBM here, joined once again
BBD.
by BBD, and we are battling with new Fate Reforged cards for Standard, since the pre-release is this weekend. And I have, unsurprisingly, an Elvish Mystic deck. So
CBM playing another
Elvish Mystic deck. So I've actually been thinking about Red-Green Aggro for quite some time. When a few of the new cards got spoiled, and a lot of people actually said that they wanted to see Shaman of the Great Hunt in comments on our last video, so that's what we're doing. Basically, this is just very similar to the Green-Red Aggro deck that was being played towards the end of the current Standard season, being championed recently by Brian Kibler. But we just have Elvish Mystic, Heir of the Wilds.
Hold on a second. This deck was championed by Brian Kibler?
Correct.
What a... Wow, that's out of character for him.
It is.
All right, continue.
I mean, it's not Teamer.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
There's no Knuckle Blades. We do have Elvish Mystic, Heir of the Wilds. I am playing 3 Rattleclaw Mystic because some of the new cards have secondary abilities that will give us flooding insurance. So it doesn't matter if we have a bunch of mana, if we draw a Yasova Dragonclaw or a Shaman of the Great Hunt, we're going to have things that we can do with our mana. So Yasova is a card that I was really excited for quite some time because I thought that it was just a straight up threaten. It's not, which makes it a little bit worse in my eyes, but I think it's still good and we're going to give it a shot. Basically, she's a 4/2 trample for 2 and a green, and you can pay 1 blue-red hybrid at the beginning of your combat step to threaten a creature with power less than what Miss Dragonclaw's power is. So we can't take Siege Rhinos unless we have Boonsater bestowed. Unlock that achievement, hopefully. But you will be able to take things like Sidisi, Courser, just ways to push through damage and remove a blocker from your opponent, which can be very valuable.
I will say that if you have Boonsater to Yasova Dragonclaw, you still can't take a bolstered Sandstep Mastodon.
That is true.
Just letting you know. Yeah.
We can take a Pro-like Ancient, though. And that's going to be the goal.
Yeah.
And then we have Shaman of the Great Hunt, which is 3 and a red for a 4/2 haste. Kind of a pseudo-anthem. Whenever a creature I control deals combat damage to an opponent, they get a 1/1 counter. And I can pay 2, and then, so it's 2 colorless, and then 2 Ally Aintrazi mana, blue-green hybrid, to draw a card for each ferocious creature I control. So each creature with power 4 or greater. As you can see here, we have Shaman, Yasova, Ashcloud Phoenix, Stormbreath Dragon, Boonsater, and Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker. They all can have 4 power when I use the ability. So we actually have a chance to draw some cards in the late game.
Yes, definitely.
And then we have 4 Flamewake Phoenix. Now this is, to be honest, the most questionable slot in the deck. I feel like Goblin Rabblemaster might just end up being better. Primarily because it's easier to cast. It's almost impossible to play Phoenix on 2 with an Elvish Mystic, unless we start out with a Mana Confluence. But the upside for it is that Flamewake Phoenix is just much more resilient than Goblin Rabblemaster. So it's a 2/2 flying haste for 1 red that must attack each turn. And Ferocious at the beginning of my combat step, I can pay a red to put it into play for my graveyard. So it's going to be very difficult to handle when I have all of these Ferocious creatures.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to get rid of it for good.
Unless people start playing Last Breath again, and then we just can't play the card.
Yeah.
We have the standard Crater's Claws. I am playing some Lightning Strikes because Goblin Rabblemaster is still a very good card, and you want to have early ways to interact with them. A couple Xenagos, a Boonsater. To be honest, I had more Yasova Dragonclaws in the deck before I realized it wasn't a flat-out threaten. So I think 2 is probably the most that you want to play.
It is legendary, after all.
It is legendary. But again, as a 4/2, I can imagine a lot of times I'm just going to be crashing in with it and being fine if my opponent trades with it.
Yeah, just play another one.
Yeah, I'm getting some damage, play another one. And then some Stormbreath Dragons. Lands have pretty much been about the same since this deck started getting played. Normally there was 2 rugged high lands and only 1 mana confluence, but I decided to go with 2 confluence and only 1 rugged highlands, just because I don't want that many lands to come into play tapped, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, you want to curve out every game, so.
So that's the main deck. I'm really excited to see how these cards play. They have a lot of text on them for just a normal green-red deck that wants to attack. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of options they give.
Kind of feels like the name of the game for Fate Reforged.
Yeah, Fate Reforged has a lot of cards with a lot of text on them.
Yeah, it's almost like they reprinted, like, what was it, Ice Scepter, or what's that card?
I don't know.
There's some super old Ice Cauldron.
Yeah, Ice Cauldron.
Ice Cauldron, yeah. That should have been in Fate Reforged, but...
Yeah, just a lot of text. But let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboard and see what kind of options we have. All right, everybody, we are here with the sideboard for the red-green aggro deck. We have 3 Destructive Revelry, which is pretty much becoming commonplace in these types of decks now, just as a way to combat the whip decks. 3 Arc Lightning. With all of the X2s in the deck, I really wanted a way to fight Hordeling Outbursts. I think it's a very good defensive card against us, which Arc Lightning does well. But it's also good against Goblin Rabblemaster. It's good in the mirror when people are playing Elvish Mystics. And it's also not all that terrible against something like Hornet Queen.
Yeah, like Goblin Rabblemaster, Hordeling Outburst, Monastery Mentor plus token, Hornet Queen. You know.
I feel like our Arc Lightning stock is definitely going to go up if the format changes towards the way I think it's going to.
I mean, it may not be as good as Flames with a Firebrand, but it's definitely very good in this format.
We do have 2 more Xenagos to be able to go up to 4 against the control decks. I also think Xenagos is pretty good against like the random green mid-range decks as well.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, we don't have Mizium Orders to go along with it. Man, that card would be so good in this format.
It'd be insane.
We do have another Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, just as a way to pressure control decks, but it's also very good against like the mid-range green-black X decks, just because it's not vulnerable to Murderous Cut, and it's a way to kill Courser of Krufix.
Yeah, it's a Stormbreath Dragon that doesn't just die to cut.
Yeah. We do have a Burnaway as a concession to just how popular the whip decks have been recently. Plus, it's just one of the few ways that we have that we can actually just like kill a Siege Rhino or a Doomlake Giant.
Speaking of killing Siege Rhino,
we do have 2 Fated Conflagrations. It's very good against killing Siege Rhino, but it's also good because it kills Elspeth, which is important. This deck is fairly weak to a resolved Elspeth. So
yep.
We have a 4th Stormbreath Dragon, because why not? The card's real good. And then 2 Courser of Krufix. So recently we played an Abzan aggro deck that had 2 Coursers in the sideboard. And I wanted to try that with this deck as well. I've always felt like Courser wasn't where these types of decks wanted to be, going way back to like the Green-Red Monsters days and the Jund Monsters days. So we had 4, I went to 3, I went to 2, I cut them completely. I never really felt like it was where you want it to be, particularly in Game 1s. But in Game 2s, I think that it has the potential to be very good. Games tend to slow down a little bit. They get a little more grindy. We get to bring in some more removal spells. And I think Courser has the potential to be very good out of the sideboard in a deck like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So that's the sideboard. Let's go ahead and jump in and battle with these new cards. I feel like Tasigur is going to put a hurting on this deck, but let's see what happens.
We'll see.